Zombie-like addicts, their nearly lifeless bodies covered with sores, causing their limbs to rot. It's all caused by an animal tranquilizer that's being mixed with opioids. It's called xylazine, the street name Tranq. It's deadly. It's resistant to Narcan. Reporter Mary Murphy visited this area in Philly and saw the impact firsthand.
Vials of xylazine have already been found in New York City stash houses that produce drugs, and it's spreading to other states. We noticed one young man in a wheelchair missing his left foot. Ralph Dixon, a lifelong Philadelphia resident, told us he's never seen anything like what's happened with Tranq.
They are no place for these people. That stuff is like eating this stiff flesh away. It was probably too potent for a human being to be taken anyhow. The drug dealers, why they cutting the drugs with that stuff is beyond me.
Mary Murphy, News Nation.
Holy shit, that's an unbelievable video of what's going on in our country. Started out in California, and it's only going to get worse, folks. I'm Dr. Jeff LaCure, and to my right is the Count Dracula of podcasts, Richard Yancey, and we are bros who know. Rich, man, this is some crazy stuff.
You're talking about men with no dignity or women with no dignity.
Yeah.
Until after taking this type of drug, you lose all your dignity. You walk around like a zombie.
Yep.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Until these drug dealers now, they're like scientists.
Yeah.
They're mixing heroin with fentanyl, with other types of drugs.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I think it's xylazine, I think it is. The Tranq, they call it Tranq. They actually put...
That's the street name for it,
yeah,
right? Tranq,
animal tranquilizer.
Yeah, awesome.
It's crazy.
Awesome. You know, heroin wasn't bad enough, Rich. Fentanyl wasn't bad enough. Somebody had to come up with a cocktail, right? And just say, and folks, it's coming. Folks, I'm telling you, it's coming. Rich, that one disturbed me.
No,
you and I've seen some pretty mucked up videos. That one disturbed me.
Well, I tell you something. Like we talked about this before. You know what I mean? Like when you devalue men, right? This is the outcome.
Yeah.
You know, you have a lot of men on the street now. You know, they start off with like heroin. And then they don't even know. I don't even see. It's not like the drugs that we take that has the ingredients in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they take this. They take this. Take this heroin, and it's laced with these other drugs, and these people are losing limbs, Jeff.
No way.
Yeah, they're losing limbs. I'm telling you, they have all kinds of sores on their bodies, and it turns into like serious blood infections. And they're going to the hospital, and their doctors are telling them, "Listen, you're gonna lose a limb," and they lose a limb, and they still won't get off.
They just keep going.
Yeah, they stand there and they call them like zombies.
Yep.
It's incredible.
Well, you know what, Rich, I'll tell you, and I know we're very focused on this drug, and, I mentioned sometimes how angry this stuff makes me, and it just reminds me, if we keep our borders open, which is flooding our country with these kinds of drugs, particularly fentanyl, this is the kind of shit we see, right?
Absolutely. They said that most of it's coming from China, though.
So absolutely.
China's getting, so the Mexicans are getting it from China.
They sure are.
And they're coming through the border.
Yeah. China's giggling right now, right?
Oh, my God.
Because right now, China doesn't use fentanyl and heroin the same way we do.
No.
Right?
No.
And I'm not saying China's better because they're not, but they understand how you defeat democracy, right?
Right. You destroy the people.
Yeah. You know what else angers me, Rich? I know it bothers you, too. We talked about this at the gym, is our homeless people, some statistics suggest at least half are veterans, right? Who protected you and I, gave us the opportunity to speak freely in a microphone.
Right.
And they're now our most vulnerable citizens, and yet now we have a super drug that is creating apocalypse zombies.
Oh, my God, it's crazy. So you think about it. You go, once I think it hit California. It's in Chicago. It's in New York.
Great.
It's going to be in Mass one of these days.
Yep.
These people don't have a chance. Like I said, until at one point, until you have zero dignity. Like, so, at that point, how do you get your dignity back after that? You should see these people, like, they're hung, like, leaning over, staggering with their pants down. They're defecating on the ground. Peeing outside, sleeping outside.
It's over, isn't it?
I'm telling you, it's like we're coming back, we're turning around, like we're going back to animals.
Yep.
But I tell you something, what's crazy is, like I said, these drug dealers are like scientists now. I'm telling you,
mad scientists.
They have these guys hooked from the start. I'm telling you, you take this one time and you're done.
Over.
It's, I don't even know how you're going to fix that. But I tell you what, we spent all this money on Ukraine.
Yeah.
Talk about that, Joe. What do you think about that?
Rich, again, there's one of my favorite words, anger. Before it's done, we've already got about $150 billion over at Ukraine. It's going to be about $200 billion.
That's crazy.
Imagine what that would do for the homeless population. Imagine what it would do to the border. And speaking of border, there are politicians, boy, I'm pissed at politicians right now on both sides, who care more about the Ukrainian border than our border.
Right.
We got a war going on at our border. I know it's not a military war necessarily, but we got a war going on, Rich.
Oh, we do.
And politicians care more about the Ukrainian border instead of our veterans who are on the street. And you know what? Here's my conspiracy theory, Rich. Although I don't think it's a theory. I think it's a conspiracy fact. True or false? Homeless people vote.
Not these homeless people.
That's right.
Not
right?
these. Not
they
the
don't
ones that-
vote.
no, right.
They don't work at military. They don't work at Raytheon putting together high-tech weaponry.
Right.
Right? They don't vote. They're not even participants anymore. They're urinating in public.
Oh,
They're
that's
urinating
terrible.
in front of Macy's.
It's unbelievable.
Right? I love what you say, Rich, that their dignity is gone.
It's gone forever. I'm telling. Listen, one thing I'm scared about is becoming an elderly, and then I'm in the hospital and someone has to wash me.
Yeah,
That terrifies me.
I'm with you.
But to walk around in like at 25, 30, at the prime of your life,
Right.
and defecating on the ground, and
Yep.
and just having zero dignity. I'm told, listen. So here's the thing. I have my heart for Ukraine. I feel bad for the people in Ukraine, but we're not qualified to give anyone money until we take care of our own.
I agree.
We have to take care of our own.
Have to.
At this point, like we have to say to ourselves, unless there's another agenda.
There he is.
Because if there's not another agenda, we have to take. There's no reason why this type of drug, should be on the street today.
You know why it's on the street.
Well, I'm telling you, it's evident.
Follow the money.
Well, you always say that, Jeff.
Right? Follow the money.
Yeah, it's
If
crazy.
there wasn't money involved, this would be done.
Right.
This would be done. There's a lot of money out there. A lot of money. It's frightening. But you know what, Rich? You and I think we're kind of on the cutting edge about this Tranq stuff. Because I guarantee a lot of viewers haven't heard of it yet. And it's coming.
When they see this video, I'm telling you, it's going to shock them. Like I said, it's one of those things where, Jeff, to put together some kind of plan to fix this. There's a difference between being broken and not having any dignity.
That's right.
I'm telling you, when you have zero dignity, how do you get that back? I'm telling you, you're a psychologist. How do you get dignity back?
Well, I'll tell you what. You can't have it if you don't have a shelter. You can't, right?
Right, that's
You
true.
can't have it just living on the street because your dignity is stripped away. I'm going to give you an estimate. I encourage our viewers to fact check me on this one because I'm doing this one by memory. It would take approximately $1.5 billion right now, and every homeless person could be sheltered. Think about that.
Right.
$1.5 billion, yet we're sending $150 billion to Ukraine. It would take about another $1 billion to make sure that anyone who wanted substance abuse treatment, Rich, would have substance abuse treatment. There's no treatment centers that have beds anymore. Insurance is atrocious. You know how much they pay for most insurances now?
What's that?
Maybe 10 days.
That's crazy.
Well, you don't even detox, Rich, in 10 days. You're certainly not detoxing off this psycho albatross called Tranq.
Well,
No way.
The crazy
Not
thing
in 10
about
days.
The crazy thing about this Tranq is that once they take the Tranq, I guess what happens is the Tranq is supposed to make the heroin last longer. Like heroin,
Correct.
fentanyl and Tranq is supposed to make the heroin last longer.
Perfect.
The problem is once the heroin is out of your system and you're still on Tranq, that's when you can run into some problems.
Yep.
Because I guess the Tranq does something to your brain that it labors your breathing, and and then you can have all kinds of complications from there. So like I said, these guys are like scientists, and the problem is at this point is when you lose your dignity, right? At that point, you don't.
What's left?
Yeah, you don't. I'm telling you, at that point, like you don't have anything to kind of push you in the right direction, right? Like even if someone says, "I want to help you," listen, if losing a limb is not going to change
Wow.
your thought process,
Right.
nothing's going to change your thought process.
That's right. That tells you
At that point.
how powerful addiction is. because it's crazy powerful.
So what's how could this happen to us in America? It doesn't even make any sense.
They don't vote. You know who else gets, and I'm not trying to put us down a different road, maybe a different podcast for a different day. You know who else kind of gets forgotten? Elderly in nursing homes. And you know what?
Right.
They don't vote either.
Wow.
Right? They don't have the power. And we have a small group of people who have the cash, and cash equals power in this country, and they're calling the shots. And again, the more people who are homeless, believe it or not, benefits certain people's economic status. Think about that for a second.
Well, what about the prices of renting now? It's like, I think to rent a one-bedroom apartment in New York is like $6,000.
Yeah, what homeless dude can afford that?
Right. So at that point, I'm telling you, it's almost like a domino effect, right?
That's right.
So I guess the question that I have to ask you, Jeff, is that there has to be a plan. I'm telling you, there's a reason why we're spending more money outside the country
It's outrageous.
than we are
Rich.
in our own. I'm telling you, our infrastructure alone.
Oh God.
Our infrastructure. I'm telling you, we have the life expectancy of a bridge is supposed to be 100 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Our bridges are 150, 200
That's
years
right.
old.
That's right.
And back in the day, I'm telling you, it'd be like 50,000, maybe 300,000 to fix a small bridge. Now you're talking millions of dollars to fix a bridge. We don't even have the money to fix the infrastructure.
Supposedly, and you know me, conspiracy facts, not conspiracy theory, because this is a fact. The $1 trillion bill that got passed by both the Senate and the House, Republicans and Democrats signed off on it, was an infrastructure bill. Take a look at the roads. I popped 3 tires this winter because our roads are shit. My fiance has popped.
That's a beautiful car, too.
Thank you, Rich. I'll tell you. My fiance has popped 2 tires and trashed a couple of rims because our roads are shit.
Right.
You know what else was in the infrastructure bill? Wasn't infrastructure. A lot to do with military.
Right.
Look who's getting rich right now. Look who's making money right now off of Ukraine. By the way, quickly on Ukraine, because it annoys the hell out of me. And I think we're going to have to do a podcast on this one, Rich, at some point. Is in Ukraine right now, you see Ukrainian soldiers are actually, it almost looks like they're duct taping citizens to like lampposts and then spray painting them because they're anti-war. They don't want any more war. And there are now videos out there that are showing Ukrainian soldiers who didn't think they were on camera doing the Heil Hitler salute. Think about that. One of the worst human beings in the history of the world, and we got Ukrainian soldiers who are going, yeah, right? And yet we're sending them $150 billion, and yet we say we have a problem, wink, wink, with, and I hate this phrase, but I use it, with white supremacists in this country. Show me anybody right now in America who is tying, our soldiers who are tying American citizens to a lamppost, spray paint in their face, or our soldiers who were caught on film, Heil Hitler. It's not happening.
You're going to have to send me that. I didn't see that.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that is crazy.
We're sending them $150 billion while our veterans are in their own urine.
Yeah, veterans. I know. We have to. I don't even know what the end game to that is. But I tell you what, at this point, it comes back to the kids again, right? You can't, so there was a girl at the gym, right? And she wanted to go to Chicago on her own. And she's only like 22, 23.
Holy shit, that's
And I said, that's a bad idea.
Yeah, it is.
Luckily, she was only gone for like 3 months, and I saw her.
She made it back?
She made it back. She said she had a hard time over there.
Not a drive-by shooting victim?
Yeah. So, nowadays, I'm telling you, it's tough to navigate what you want to do as a human being right now.
That's right.
Because there's so much peer pressure. There's so much. I'm telling you, once you start, it always starts with marijuana, right? Then it starts with some type of opioid, right? And then, then it goes from there. But you don't know what these people are lacing the drugs with.
That's right, and they are doing it.
And I tell you something, it's like that was kind of heartfelt to see these people walk around like zombies, right?
It's upsetting. I mean, when you sent that to me, Rich, I was in a decent mood until I watched that video. And I was like, holy shit.
It's wild, right?
This is like the worst combination of drugs now on steroids. What's going to be next?
It's crazy.
But you know what? There's a reason. There's a reason.
There is a reason.
I sort of said tongue-in-cheek, and I don't take drive-by shootings lightly. But you know what? Guess who doesn't vote? The shooters. Shooters don't vote. And the victims of violent crime, they don't vote.
The victims of violent crime.
There's a connection. See, we're starting to see a connection. Guess who votes? Who votes in this country? They never miss an opportunity to vote. People with money. And what's the number one voting motivation? How do I protect that money?
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
I'm not saying they don't have kind hearts. Wealthy people are the reason we have most of what we have in this country because they pay the majority of taxes.
It trickles down.
It does. However, I don't see a lot of wealthy people building affordable housing. You know why? There's no money in it.
Listen, people don't do anything when there's no money involved in it.
That's right.
I'm saying, if you have the most rarest disease, you're screwed.
Oh, yeah.
You want to have the most popular disease because then they'll find a cure for it. You know, they'll look for a cure for it.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, right? Not to change gears here, but so the drug that they use now for COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's it called? Plaxid. That's one of the drugs is part of the HIV drugs.
Interesting.
And what's funny is that just like the HIV drug, that you know, if you stop taking it, the HIV comes back. Because I guess when you take the HIV drug, it goes to undetectable.
That's the goal.
That's the goal. Well, it does. You know.
Yep.
Okay. But if you get off of it, you can detect it again.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing with Plaxvid. Plaxovid? Was it Plaxovid?
Yeah, Plaxovoid.
Plaxovid.
Yeah, look at us both showing our linguistic skill.
Bros that don't know. The bros that don't know.
That's right.
But anyway,
bros who forgot.
Right. But anyway, so my point is that we have to figure. I'm talking. I don't know. I don't know who's going to figure this out. But it's going to be a tough. This is a tough one because it's going to come to mass, and when it does, it's a lot. I'm talking. It's funny because there's a place in Boston that's called Methadone Mile, okay, and people are living on the streets there.
Yep.
And I think that's going to be triple the size when this drug hits Boston.
Yep.
You know.
You know what? It's not going to change my thought anyways until we have homeless encampments in Wellesley and Weston and Newton and Cambridge. You know what I mean?
That's never gonna happen.
It's easy for people, and I'm not knocking everybody who live in the W towns because there's a lot of wonderful people there. But I also know there's some people there that they think they're social justice warriors until it comes to their neighborhood. Right? I don't see them opening up their doors for homeless people. You know, I know what kind of curriculums they're pushing out that way. Again, it's focused on how we look instead of really fixing a problem. And speaking of how we look, how awful do those homeless people look in the video that we just showed you?
Like I said,
they don't even look like human beings anymore, Rich.
Zero dignity. They walk around like animals.
Yeah.
So how would you fix that? Like, how could you, you know?
Here's an interesting thought, Rich. You and I, you know, we've talked tongue in cheek over the years about starting a business together, right? Mm-hmm. There's no question. This is where I'm a little surprised. There is a ton of money to be made in drug rehab right now. Like, I'm surprised that a lot of entrepreneurs haven't went out and built these beautiful kind of rehab centers that have access or can be accessed from poor to wealthy because the insurance company might be willing to pay for some of it. So that's where I'm stunned because that would be a business idea for you and I that has value, right?
Right.
And also you can make a living. And by the way, I'm a capitalist. I support that. I support that if someone puts in the effort and the time, it's okay to make some money off of it as well, as long as you do it with kindness and dignity. But right now, and I will tell you as a shrink, Rich, two things bother me when people come to my office is when they say, hey, Dr. Jeff, are there any good psychiatrists out there? There's not a lot, and there's not a lot that have openings. So if people do need medication, they got to wait, and they got to wait, and they got to wait. Well, guess what? Sometimes if you can't get the medicine you need, guess what you do? You self-medicate.
Yeah, that's
right.
That's
and the other thing that I have to do this. I literally do this face and I feel awful. Is when they say, "What's a really good drug rehab center for my son or for me?" I'm ready. Right. I've gone to a detox program, and they have to wait to get in. There's a wait list.
That's crazy.
Well, that's not what drug rehab is. Once you're ready,
you should be able to go.
You got to be ready to go. Can you imagine, Rich, if you and I had a massive heart attack and they said, "Hey, we know your heart's ready to give out at any moment. You got to wait 6 months."
Right.
Right.
So that's why I asked you that question, because here's the thing. So I guess what I'm really asking you is this. So if a terminally ill cancer patient, right, at a certain point, the doctor's going to say, listen, there's nothing we can do, right? At what stage of the game, when someone has a mental illness or a drug habit, right, where you say to the person, there's nothing we can do? Is it with this type of drug that you just lost every ounce of your dignity?
Yeah.
Are you at a point where there's no return at that point? I'm telling you, are you at a point where only the grace of God can bring you back?
I think you just hit the nail on the head, Rich. We know we have right now statistically over 100,000 fentanyl-related deaths every year, overdoses. Right. That number is going to triple probably in 2023, especially with these super freaky apocalypse now drugs like Tranq. It's going to get worse. But what's happening is, yes, they are so addicted now that even if, and there are really good people that are out there and they're saying, hey, come to our rehab center, there's no cost. And people are like, no, because you know what? Sort of internally they've given up on themselves as well. And again, I'm going to put the connection, and I know I keep saying it, and I'm not going to apologize for keep saying it because it's so true. They're lost, they're forgotten, people don't care. The people who are so addicted to this drug don't even care. I love how you said they don't have their dignity. Without our dignity, what do we have?
Nothing. That's what.
Right?
Yeah.
Without a dignity.
And the thing is, this is one of those instances where it just shouldn't exist.
Correct.
Because there's a difference between opiates and opioids. Opiates, those are natural, like cocaine and stuff like that. Okay, you take cocaine, you know what I mean? We could probably get you back.
I think so.
Even take heroin, we could probably get you back.
There's a shot.
But this drug strips. It takes every ounce of who you are.
Yeah.
And you're no longer that person anymore.
That's right.
And so, at this point, I think, we owe it to every human being in America. We need to stop this.
We have to.
This should be the forefront of, before we do anything.
That's right.
We should stop this because this is embarrassing. I'm telling you,
it is.
It's embarrassing for the person that's on it.
That's right.
It's embarrassing to even the people that's not on it because these are American citizens walking around like in a zombie state.
That's right, Rich.
Defecating on American soil.
Yeah, they are.
That's embarrassing. I'm telling you, listen, as a president. That's right. I would be embarrassed
100%.
to even have anyone around the world to even see this.
That's right.
That's almost like you have in your house, Jeff. And when we go to your house, in your house, like you have like it's a disaster in there, and that you have feces on the ground, and you have cans and Coke bottles all over the place. You'd be embarrassed, right?
100%.
Well, this is
even a messy office makes me embarrassed.
As an American, I'm embarrassed, right?
That's right, Rich. You're hitting the nail on the head, and you know what? It reminds me. I was going with my team. We're on a bus, and we were going to play a team in Providence, and we're on Route 95. And every underpass, once we crossed into Rhode Island, just outside of Providence and in Providence, had homeless encampments. And then you look at the train stations that are off to the side, where it's the commercial trains, not the commuter rails. Homeless encampments. Never used to see it. No. And what I think is beginning to happen, Rich, I hope, not for you and me, because we have a clue and we care. People are getting so used to it. You know what they do? It becomes normal. And it's embarrassing. People come to this country. Now, I've talked to some people, just random, who said, this isn't the country I remember. This isn't that shining beacon on the hill. No. Because I forget who said it. It might have been Dr. Martin Luther King. You can fact check me. But it was somebody cool like that. Said a country is only as good as how you treat your homeless and your imprisoned. Right?
I believe I believe that 100%. And the fact that if Russia took one of our own, we would do whatever it takes to get them back on our own soil.
That's right.
We have someone who's so lost.
That's right.
Who doesn't have their dignity anymore.
That's right.
And we allow that on our soil is embarrassing, and that's something that. Before we can we're not even qualified to give any country any money.
Not a penny.
We're not qualified to do anything until we fix our own.
Not
I think
a penny. You know what we're doing? Again, fact. Not conspiracy theory. Conspiracy fact. We are putting illegal migrants, and I focus on illegal because there's a way to come to this country. I came to the country legally. I wasn't born in this country. I'm a naturalized citizen. I did it the right way. But back to the point, because it's not about me. We have taxpayers, not the government. It's the taxpayers through the government who are putting illegal migrants on buses and then bringing them to all the big cities, or on planes and bringing them to all the big cities, or then they put them up at 3, 4, and 5-star hotels, including in New York City, including in Chicago, including, as they tried one time at Martha's Vineyard. Interesting how Martha's Vineyard handled it. They're like, hey, you got to go. This doesn't fit our demographic. But we won't house a homeless person. We won't house a homeless vet who is turned into sort of this zombie who needs a shot, just needs a shot at getting out of their own way. But we will bring somebody who crosses the border illegally. We'll give them a cell phone. We'll give them a free education. We'll give them free health care. We'll provide them with food. And here's the thing that blows my mind. These all blow my mind, Rich, but this blows my little more. We provide them shelter.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, as that video showed, those aren't illegal migrants
Those are
on the
those
side.
are American citizens.
Those are American citizens.
American citizens.
And many of them fought for us, Rich,
Mm-hmm.
to have the opportunity to sit once a week aside from each other, or so to say, in front of each other, with a microphone, to have freedom of speech and
Right.
freedom of expression.
Right.
Rich, what's your thoughts as we wrap this up, man? Because this is,
My
man,
thoughts-
this is a
my-
fiery
my-
one, Rich.
Yeah, my thoughts are it's just that I feel bad for anyone who's on this Tranq, and I wish the only thing if I had a wish, it would be that they never even started in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you're on it, that's it. I'm telling you, it's game over at that point.
Yep.
I think as an American, I love being American.
Mm-hmm.
I love Americans,
Mm-hmm.
and we're all one people.
We sure are.
But we're divided right now,
We're
which is
very
sad.
divided.
And I think before we help any other nation,
Mm-hmm.
we have to help our own. We're not qualified. When we have thousands and thousands of people walking around in a zombie state, right, that have zero dignity, that they are Americans,
Mhm.
we should be ashamed of.
Mhm.
We don't have the right. We're not qualified to help any other country
That's
at this
right.
point until we help our own. And that's where I'm at.
I'm with you, Rich. And I'll put a final thought to just back to Ukraine. $10 billion we just sent to them. You know what for? Part of it was to fund their pensions. So Ukrainian citizens, right, we are funding, you and me because we pay taxes, their pensions. Who's funding our homeless vets?
Nobody.
Who's funding these veterans that are on this apocalypse of all drugs? Think about that, viewers, because you're funding it with your tax dollar. Hey, on behalf of Rich, the Darth Vader of podcasts, I'm Dr. Jeff LaCure. This has been another really important episode of Bros Who Know. We wish you well. We hope we got you a little fired up. Next time you see a homeless person, think about it for a second. You are one bad decision away from being them. Have a great week.